I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into a powerful book. It's called Destruction of the Anewaa Kingdom, and it's written by an amazing author. His name is Okoth Opap. This powerful narrative uncovers the harsh realities of imperialism and the devastating impact on the Anewaa people in East Africa. Join us as we explore the historical injustices and the call for sovereignty and justice in the 21st century. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Okoth, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. This is a powerful read, a powerful book, lots of great information out there to folks who might not know about this culture, might not know about this civilization. Tell us what inspired you to write Destruction of the Anewaa Kingdom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Crawford. What inspired me to write the Destruction of the Anewaa Kingdom is that the history of Anewaa Kingdom is not written. Anewaa Kingdom was the only kingdom in Africa that defeated the British in 1912 and remained unsubdued by the colonialism. Because of that, British came up with different strategy after they were defeated at the Battle of Yom in 1912 to isolate Anewaa from the rest of the world. The first step they did was they protested in Addis Ababa after 1912 that was what is called now sanction. So that because during the colonialism in Africa, Africans were not armed with firearms we have today. They were fighting with arrows and bows. For some reason, Anewaa and Ethiopia were the only two countries in Africa by that time who had access to modern firearms. As a result, Ethiopian, when they fought with the Italian in 1896, they were able to defeat Italian in the Battle of Adwa. The same thing, when the Anewaa people fought with the British in 1912, they were able to defeat the British and remain unsubdued. So that suggests that when African was colonized, it was not because they could not fight, it was because their ammunition or the weapon they had did not match with the weapon of the European. That's why they were subdued. So these two countries, they fought effectively. So after that, British came up with the sanction. After they were defeated, they estimated that Anewaa had 10,000 guns in their hand. That was in 1912. And to disarm them or to penetrate into their kingdom was not easy. So what they did was to convince some American and British companies that used to sell guns through Djibouti and into Ethiopia. They called this illicit weapon sale. So because of that, they convinced some of those companies and individuals so that they would not sell ammunition to Ethiopia. And they also cut ties between Anewaa and Oromo, who is actually Ethiopian. They cut ties so that Anewaa have no access into this. So as a result of that, as time goes by, Anewaa did not have new gun and ammunition. Due to that, they were able to penetrate. For example, after that, because Anewaa were divided in the agreement of 1902. This agreement was signed between the British and Ethiopian. When they signed agreement, Anewaa leaders were not on that table. Anewaa leaders did not have any say, but their future was dictated by the British and Ethiopian up to this day. The impact of that agreement is still affected us today.
Amazing, amazing. The community today, the Anewaa community today, still strives for independence. Tell us about some of the current challenges and hurdles that they face in their quest for independence.
Okay, so let me take you back a little bit so that you understand better the situation they are in. After these two agreements, after the agreement they signed, now its implementation faced a strong resistance from the Anewaa on the ground, because even Ethiopians themselves knew that Anewaa Kingdom was another country. It was not part of Ethiopia. And the agreement they signed, they put the border within the Anewaa Kingdom. There were 7 rivers flow from within the Anua kingdom. They go three rivers on the other side, 3 rivers on the other side, and the middle one was the border demarcated by the British and Ethiopia against the will of the Anua people. Today, Ethiopian occupied the Anua territory in Ethiopia, and South Sudan the same thing on the other side. But our ancestors were not Sudanese, were not Ethiopian. They were the Anua living in the Anua kingdom. The injustice now that were brought by these people, the injustice has been 122 years this year. From 1902 until today, it has been 122 years of suffering. Anuak lost their sovereignty because of the agreement signed by the British and Ethiopian. As Anuak are suffering, both countries who signed the agreement, they are benefiting from the pain and suffering of the Anuak people. Anuak people, they have been abused psychologically, educationally, and even economically. We don't have anything. Anything is taken away. For example, our own security. Our own security is at risk because we are not in charge of our own country. People who are our enemy are ruling us. For example, in 2003, Ethiopian government decided that they want to eliminate Anuak from Gambela, from their land. This is their land, but Ethiopians do not want Anuak to be Ethiopian. Instead, they want their land. One way to get their land was to eliminate them from their land. And that means they committed genocide against the Anuak people in Gambela in 2003. Even up to this day, nothing has been done. The world is silent. Anuak issues have not get anywhere. I've not even heard. This is the first time I wrote this book. This is the first time for the voice of the Anuak people to get outside of the Anuak kingdom, so that people know the suffering we went through and what need to be done. Because justice and accountability in 21st century, these are the things that Anuak need. We need justice, accountability, and sovereignty of the Anuak nation.
Is there any hope on the horizon that you will get that sovereignty, that you will get that independence, that you will be liberated?
I think at the movement, this is the first time now the issue of Anuak people is raised. I wrote this in the book so that from now on, Anuak, for their survival, they have 2 choices. Either all of them united and be in one country, or become independent country as they used to. But the struggle is better than the situation they are in now, because each year the situation is getting worse.
Describe a little bit the situation there right now.
The situation right now, as I just mentioned earlier, these people, they are divided into 2. In South Sudan side, you will not see Anuak people in the government. They are marginalized in the national government. They are not marginalized in the state government, and they don't have any say in the affair. Okay. Last year, there was a big issue in South Sudan. That's where I'm from. There was an Anuak who was a military leader. He was a colonel in the army, was assassinated by the current government of Sudan. Because there was a demand that we need to have our own state. In the state to be marginalized, we need our own state, and the government rejected, and they accused this man of being a rebel. How come someone is a rebel and is in the uniform of the is in uniform in the country and is also deployed by the very government where he was? Because he was with his people, they assassinate him in September 2023. That's the situation we are in on South Sudan side. And we are not represented in the national level. We are not visible, even though we are there. So on the Ethiopian side,
completely marginalized, which is awful, completely disempowered, which is awful, without a voice, without a say, without representation. It's a true struggle for freedom. And hopefully the world hears your words through this wonderful book, because it's an important book. What do you hope readers take away from your book? What do you hope they learn from your book?
Okay, let me come to Ethiopian side, and then I will come to that. Okay, so on Ethiopian side, as we speak, in 2022, there was all OLM, Ethiopian rebels. Actually, they are fighting in Oromia. For some reason, they also came to Gambela, which is the Anuak region, attacked Gambela town, and Ethiopian forces who were there, they just there. Okay, they came and attacked people. So when Anywaa defend themselves because of the attack to protect their citizens, the very people who defend themselves, some of them were arrested, and some of them are still in jail today because they defend themselves. So this government of Ethiopia, it has been doing the same thing. That's why I said earlier, Anywaa have put in a situation where they suffer psychological abuse, mental abuse, anything else, all of these are put on them. Imagine someone who defend themselves now taken to the court and convicted because they defend themselves. So we are in a situation where we need help from the international community. Yeah. The suffering Anywaa went through, nobody knows. But this is the book where you will learn more about the suffering of the Anywaa people. Okay, what my reader will take away is this. There are two things, but they are mixed. Number one, they will learn that Anywaa used to be a powerful kingdom. It was brought down by the coalition of Ethiopia and the British. At this time, what the Anywaa people seek now is not revenge. We need British and Ethiopia to redo the agreement so that would relieve the suffering and injustice that they impose on the Anywaa people.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully your book is received well and people pay attention to it, because it's an important message that the destructive powers of imperialism are still alive and intact today. And those chains of imperialism need to be broken immediately for the dignity, the sovereignty, and the independence of the Anywaa people. The name of the book is Destruction of the Anewaa Kingdom. It is a powerful book that uncovers the harsh realities of imperialism and the devastating impact on the Anewaa people in East Africa. Okoth, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Logan.
I appreciate your time, sir. Great work on this book, an important message. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.